Good evening, ladies and everyone, and welcome to the Single Mom Support Group Live. It is Friday night, and we are doing our live broadcast. I'm live when I'm in it, but I don't know if it won't be live when you see it. But it is Friday night. We are gathering together, and we are talking about forgiveness and dealing with disappointment is the name of the series. That's what we're doing. Before we jump into it, let's do some preliminaries. I am back on Propel. So I'm drinking Propel. Are you staying hydrated? Are you getting fresh air? Are you getting out of the house? Are you getting some sunlight? Are you taking care of yourself? You've got to take care of yourself, care of little ones. So make sure you take care of yourself. It's like that thing that they do on the plane when the oxygen masks drop. They say put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you assist the person or your child or whoever you're assisting. Make sure that you're taken care of first, because you can't help somebody else if you're losing oxygen. You both pass out, so that's not helpful. In order to help someone, you have to be healthy or helping yourself too. So with that said, again, all of those questions: are you drinking water? Are you getting some sun? Are you just getting some fresh air? Even if you just step out the door for 5 minutes to get some sunlight, to do something else, or to just step out, breathe. Okay, for some of you, it might be harder than that. So are you getting out of bed? Did you get out of bed today for any reason? And if that's hard for you and you did, take the win. You did it. So congratulations. You got out of bed. Did you eat? Did you eat something? For some of you that have my book, you know that I've got that section in there about taking care of yourself, forcing yourself to eat something, even if you just got carrot sticks or celery sticks or a box of raisins or a graham cracker and a cup of water, something, so that you're putting in some fuel so your body doesn't start depleting itself, trying to find nutrients and energy and things like that. So how are you taking care of yourself? How has your week been? My week has been very, very productive. Great things have been happening. I was telling somebody last night, I feel like I've gotten something back that I didn't know that I lost at the time of this accident that helped me. So I feel better. Teaching classes at church is always something that's dear to my heart. I love teaching people. And then I got a part-time job, doing some stuff. So I'm excited about that. Helped my mom this week, got released from my doctor this week. So I can go ahead with negotiating stuff for this accident and all this issue. So it's been a good week. Got to talk some stuff out, really with someone who's very important to me, and get some stuff out. There's still some talking that needs to be done, but overall, I've had a good week. Challenges, of course, but it's been good. So we are jumping back into dealing with disappointment, and I hope your week has been well too. And so last week we started on step number 2 for the dealing with disappointment. So I'll recap really quickly. We had 3 goals as we started this in dealing with disappointment. The 3 steps that we were going to talk about, and again, they're not all inclusive. This that I'm sharing with you is just one of many ways of dealing with disappointment. The information out there to help you is abundant. So if you are dealing with disappointment and this is not the forum or the venue for you, find another forum. Find someone that speaks to your heart, that ministers to you, that you can receive from them and grow and get better. Because that's the goal. It's not about hearing me or listening to me. It's about you getting better. So the 3 steps that we were taking as far as our series in dealing with disappointment is first we're going to acknowledge and affirm, and we did that in 2 parts. And this part we're doing erase and replace. It's going to probably be more than 2 parts, I'm pretty sure. And then our third step is replace, reconcile, and resist. So I'll clarify that when we get to it. Those are the 3 steps that we're taking as far as dealing with our issues. And so I got my notes here that I'm looking at. So just to make sure that I touch everything. So we've gone through the first 2 weeks acknowledging, affirming, and where we learned that our feelings, our hurts, our wounds are very real. They're very valid. We learned that it may be take some time to be able to get over the hurts. And we've taken the first critical step in dealing with those disappointments and dealing with those things, acknowledging that hurt, affirming that our feelings are real and we're not wrong for feeling what we feel. And then acknowledging those people that hurt us, whether it was someone else in a relationship, whether we hurt ourselves, or whether we're dealing with a disappointment where we feel like God disappointed us. Those are like 3 areas. I think that covers everybody, everything, with every circumstance, everything that happens. Again, we're talking about external things. And I mentioned it last week, and I'll disclaim it again. Things, the happiness, sadness, the anger, disappointment, all of those things have to do with external situations. All of those emotions have to do with external things, things that happen to us from the outside, things that events, situations, circumstances that come upon us that we have to deal with. And they'll make us happy, or they'll make us sad, or they'll make us disappointed, or they'll make us angry. That's what we're dealing with. We're not talking about, and again, as a person of faith, I know that we can achieve this, that inner peace, that lasting joy that's in there. But we're dealing with those events that are happening externally, affecting those immediate emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, frustration. That's what we're talking about. And again, this isn't all inclusive. This is one of many ways of dealing with that. We don't have to deal with the happy and the fun stuff. We're dealing with the disappointments, the anger, I find myself not wanting to hang around this person who used to be my best friend type of stuff because we've been disappointed. So at the end of that section, the goal, hopefully, was to come away, or we came away with an honest look at what has happened, who caused it to happen, where we are emotionally, and getting ready to take steps to deal with those things. The honest, the mirror analogy that I used last week, that acknowledge and affirm step should have given us that mirror where we can take a good long look at the situation, the reality of it, and then know that there are more things to come. That because a mirror, again, and I told you my pastor says this, a mirror will show you what's wrong. A mirror will show you what's out of place, but it won't do anything to help you get over it. And it won't tell you how to fix it. Basically, I'm setting my timer here because I've already been going. And hey, I've got a timer right up there. So I'm going to stop that and change that a little bit. There we go. Doing that. So the mirror is going to show us what's wrong. It's going to show us what's out of place, but the mirror won't show us how to fix it or tell us how to fix it. So that's what the acknowledge and affirm step did. We've got that honesty mirror. We're looking at it. This has happened. This was wrong. This hurt. I am hurt by this action. I'm hurt by this person's action. Or I'm hurt by my own actions, or I'm hurt by God's inaction, or what I think God's action was. those are the different things that we're looking at. So that's what we did for acknowledge and affirm. Now, last week, we jumped into the second step in dealing with disappointment, which I call erase and replace. And so we jumped right in learning that the erase part is forgiveness. So we're talking about forgiveness. And I shared this with you, and I brought it with me this week. The book that I read called The Bait of Satan. This is an old copy you can see, and I've got, underlined stuff in it. But this book is called The Bait of Satan. It's by John Bevere, and it's talking about offenses, being offended by people, learning how to forgive them, and walk free. I absolutely recommend it. It is a fantastic book. If you are wanting to get over some offenses, disappointments, some hurts, and things like that, that's a great book to read. Something else I was talking about, as we're learning about forgiveness, and having conversations with the guy that I'm dating. He is a fan of divorce court, and so he likes to watch divorce court as one of the things he likes to do on his day off. And so, we get to talk about it sometimes. And so, I like having those conversations with him because he's seeing things one way and I'm seeing things completely different way. He calls me a flower child, and I just love how he is just so grounded in reality. And the way that he thinks challenges me and challenges how I think. But the point of that is, after we have those conversations, I come away thinking about things and I'm like, could I forgive that? Is that something that I could forgive? I mean, did this have to end up in divorce court? Was that a forgivable offense? Someone has obviously gotten offended to the point that these two people want nothing to do with each other any longer, as divorce goes, as some of you know, as I know personally, that they want nothing else to do with each other when they once confessed and declared their love for each other in front of at least one witness or a person or justice of the peace or a crowd of people. And now it's come to this. Could that have been forgiven? And so those are things that I think about. And we also discussed last week about what forgiveness is not. So we were talking about that a little bit. And I said true forgiveness. And again, we're talking about true forgiveness. True forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook for hurting you. Okay? So you're not giving somebody a pass. It's not letting them off the hook. Number two, true forgiveness is not pretending that everything is okay when you know it's not. We were talking about people pleasing, appeasing people, or just being phony. Oh, no, I'm fine. No, everything's fine. Oh, we're good. But that scratching on the inside where you're not good, and you're trying to avoid that person now, and that when they're calling, you're declining, or that when you get that text from that person now, you're not in a rush to respond like you used to be. And the first thing you do when you get that text, you look at it and you're like, the eye roll, right? So forgiveness is not pretending that everything's okay when you know it's not okay. True forgiveness is not that. I forgive you. This is the third thing I talked about. Saying I forgive you is not something that you say just to keep the peace. And we discussed again the peacemaker, the difference between the peacemaker and the peacekeeper. That peacekeeper is going to try to appease everybody, try to find the best way to make everybody else happy so that there's no conflict, there's no bumping heads, and everybody is at least breathing, and so they can breathe if they think I've appeased everybody, so everybody's happy, or we're not going to talk about this, we're going to skirt this issue, we're going to pretend like this thing didn't happen just to keep the peace. And that's not true forgiveness. And the difference between that peacekeeper and the peacemaker is that peacemaker is going to take actions, and those actions are going to result in a lasting resolution, peaceful calmness, calm resolution. So there will be a calmness, the result being peace out of their actions. Peacemaker and a peacekeeper, two different things. And I added one more thing as I was just going over this and thinking about it. True forgiveness, and I said this last week, but I didn't make it a point, but I made it a point this week. True forgiveness is not lying down like a doormat and allowing someone to continue treating you badly. Okay, so you said, I forgive you. Okay, we're going to move on. But that doesn't mean I lay down and you do this again. You know, it's like that number one. True forgiveness is not letting them off the hook. You're not letting them off the hook. And you're also not lying down saying you can treat me like this again. I mentioned the book that I'm writing, the devotional, and I was writing an entry earlier this week. And God was speaking to me. And he said, we're precious. He was telling me that you're precious to me. No one gets to devalue you. That's another series for another day, and it'll be a good one. But he was saying no one gets to devalue you. You're precious to me. And I said, I think I know what that means. I have an understanding of what precious means, but I don't know that I really know what it means from your perspective. So I looked it up, my friend Merriam-Webster. And what I found, after I read the definition, it just kind of brought tears to my eyes. I was crying because it said precious means something of value, not to be treated carelessly. Something that is so valuable that God doesn't want it treated carelessly. That's me. That's you. God says you're precious. You're precious to God. He doesn't want you treated carelessly. And we're dealing with disappointments here. Those are the things. Someone has treated us carelessly or callously or in a crass manner, just rudely, offensively. They didn't treat us with love. They didn't treat us as valuable. And so now we're dealing with the hurt of that. We're dealing with the wounding of that. And so because we know now that we're not to be treated carelessly, because we're valuable, we're not going to lay down and let somebody continue to treat us in the same manner that brought on the hurt in the first place. We're going to forgive, but forgiving does not mean you get to do this again and again and again. And what this makes me think of is the series I talked about April, boundaries, that we were talking about. It's in the videos. Again, if you're a member of the Single Mom Support Group, it's in the videos. You're looking at maybe April, May, when we were talking about boundaries. Those are good videos that you can go back to and refer to in our Facebook group, only in the Single Mom Support Group. So this is not going to be on the YouTube channel. You have to be a member of the group. So we talked about that, 4 things that I said that forgiveness is not. And then we talked about what forgiveness is. And I gave this definition really. Again, I didn't go to my friend Miriam for this one, but and I don't remember where I found it. I think it's just something that I've come to know. Forgiveness is letting go of the past and the hindrances of the past that come with holding on to that past. Forgiveness is letting go of that. It's a scripture in Philippians chapter 3. And Paul is saying, this one thing I do, forgetting those things that are behind, I reach towards the goal, press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Paul knew something about forgetting and letting go that we still have yet to grasp. And that's what forgiveness is going to look like at the end of this section. It's letting go of the past and the hindrances of of the past that come with holding on to it. You're holding on to the past and you're holding on to the hindrances. And I'm jumping ahead. So let me give the cliches. Last week, I shared that cliche about being in that 4x4 cell, and you've got all the people in the cell behind you that have wounded you, disappointed you, offended you, and you're holding that door closed and you're like, ha, 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 you're never getting out of here. But what you don't realize is that you are locked in that same cell with them and you can never get out either. But you don't want to open that door, because if you open the door, they might go free. But you want them to pay. And that's what unforgiveness is. I want you to pay. But again, another analogy that I used last week, unforgiveness is like me drinking poison and expecting the person who hurt me to die from it. That's not going to happen. If I'm taking the poison, I don't understand the damage that it's doing to myself. That unforgiveness is like that poison. I'm holding on to it. I'm holding you accountable. I'm holding you imprisoning you, but you're not hurting. It's not hurting you. It's hurting me. And so this week I wanted to answer the question, why? Because my spiritual mom, Rebecca Graham, she, and this didn't have anything to do with forgiveness. This was in a training session. She said, we should always be able to explain why we have an answer for something that we had an answer to. And it wasn't exactly like that, but it was making a plan for something. And then when she would say, well, what made you choose those things? What made you choose that for the plan? We should know why we chose that as the plan. That clears it up a lot better. So you should know why it is that you're doing what you're doing. So why do we need to forgive? Okay, great question. So we should give, and it's not about let's just answer the question, okay? Why? Why do we need to forgive? If it's not about me, if it's not about that person, then why? Why do we have to do it? Why do we forgive? Forgiveness on the level that we're discussing is so much more about you or about me, because I'm in this too, than it is about the other person. Okay? So that's one reason, because this forgiveness on the level that we're talking about is all about you. It's all about me. It's all about what I can be, what I can do, what I can grow into when I let go of some things that I don't need to be holding on to. And again, in last week's videos, I mentioned several things that can occur when you hold on to those negative emotions or those grudges or all of the bitterness that comes with not forgiving somebody, sicknesses, just torment, just anxiety, a loss of sleep, lack of peace, all of those things and more things that come in the video series that I taught back in March. I cited Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic. These were studies that were done that were not spiritual studies. These were studies that were done by scientists on people who chose to forgive and people who didn't choose to forgive, and the differences and the things that can happen when a person chooses not to forgive. So I talked about that. Again, you can look in those videos in the Single Mom Support Group, Facebook group, and look at those videos on that, because the notes are in there. Um, Forgiving allows you to continue to move forward without the baggage. So that's another why. Why? Forgiveness allows you to continue to move forward without the baggage. Unforgiveness, when you're holding on to unforgiveness, you're carrying your baggage plus the other person's baggage too. You're carrying your hurt plus what they did to you hurt. So you're carrying around all these bags. And that's another reason why. Why forgive? Because I can drop the bags. I can let it go. Okay? Another why. When you forgive, you put the power back in your hands. Okay, but I made a sidebar to this, and my time is just about up. I know you heard my little thing going there, but I wanted to say this is not a power trip. So when I say putting the power back in your hands, I'm not saying, I'm dominating people, I'm superior or anything like that. But when something someone does has the ability to alter your course or perhaps even your destiny, you have to admit that that is a certain type of power over you that you're allowing them to have. I have allowed what you did to me to stop me in my tracks. That's saying something. That's saying I've given you that power over me. You have the power to stop me or let me go, move. And you aren't letting me move because you did this. So you have stopped me. That's not cool. Forgiving ensures that you're walking free because you've made an intentional decision to be the bigger person, to walk in love, to take the high road. You've intentionally made that choice. And I'm talking true forgiveness. I'm not just talking lip service that you can say, well, I'm the bigger person, I forgave them. But we can tell you didn't forgive them because of the attitude with which you are saying that statement. We can tell. People can tell. People can tell if you've forgiven them or not. It's an opportunity not to just say you're the bigger person, but to actually be the bigger person because you have made that intentional decision. You guys know I love that word intentional. It means that you have made a decision inside yourself and you are going to stick to it. This is what I purpose to do. This is what I'm doing. Intentionality. I choose to forgive you. Okay. So that answered the question, why? Those are some of the answers, again, because this is not all inclusive. So those are some of the answers to the question, why should I forgive? And again, almost all of those had nothing to do with the other person, with letting them off the hook, with you laying down and being a doormat and allowing them to do and treat you the same way. And it had nothing to do with trying to keep peace and just trying to appease everybody. It had everything to do with you being free, with you releasing baggage and letting go of things that have been hindering you or holding you back or causing you not to trust or causing you to be afraid to move forward. So those were the whys. My time is up. Next week, we're going to discuss the how, and it's easier than you think. It really, really is. So next week, we're going to discuss the how to forgive. And I've just put down some practical ways and some things that I do to keep my mindset on, I forgive you. And again, the guy that I'm dating, we had this conversation one time. And I'll share it real quick because My time's pretty much out. Um, he was saying, what do you do when you're walking into a place and you know that, these people feel a certain way about you, want to treat you a certain way, things like that. And I told him, first of all, I don't walk into a place with that mindset. I don't walk into a place thinking these people are this and they're going to treat me this way, or these people are acting like that and they're going to treat me that way. I purpose in my heart to forgive everybody before I walk in. And I love you. So now when I walk in, all that I'm walking in with is love. There is no, you're hurting me, you're offending me, I have to have my defense or my guard up. I don't, because I just love you. And that works so much better. At least for me, it works so much better. He calls me a flower child, but it works for me. I'll go in just loving people and talking to people and expecting the best. And I usually get it. The car accident situation, I didn't get it, but I think it's turning out for the best, because when I can't fight for me, God does. So my time is up. Next week, we're discussing the how. And again, it's going to be easier than you think. I'm so glad that you joined me. I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this again. I think that forgiveness, like I said last week, is something that people can always, always, always benefit from learning, because as life progresses, things go on and you have to continue to forgive and learn how to forgive people. So I'm looking forward to that next week. It's Friday night, you guys. Do something fun. Have some fun with your kids. Go somewhere. I know it's like rainy and stuff where I am, but maybe the sun is shining where you are. Let's not focus on the stuff that's going on in the news. Let's focus on making the world a better place. What can you do in your little part, in your little circle of influence, to make the people that you know feel better or put a smile on their face? Just do something like that. Let's not focus on the negative. There's so much stuff going on that if we focus on, it'll just sweep us away like it wants to sweep everybody away. Don't let that happen. Be the salmon that goes upstream, and people are entertained by our fight to go upstream. But it's a good thing. Put a smile on your face. Do your self-talk. Tell yourself you're precious. You're precious to God. He fights for us. He loves us. And I will see you here next Friday. I'm not going to drag this out. I'm going to end my stream. But I love you, ladies. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so thankful to be sharing with you. Put your comments here. Put your comments in the video on Facebook, under Facebook, if you're watching it on Facebook. If you're watching it on YouTube, add some comments. Let me know what you think. If this is adding value to you, let me know. I would love, love, love to know. And give me suggestions on what else we can talk about. I usually come up with this stuff, or I'm listening to God and he comes up with it. But I'm open to suggestions. So let me know. All right. I love you. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next